on Wednesday. And most of the time, it's not to ask a lot of questions about an assignment or what's going on in the class. It's just to be connected. And that connectedness is really the trickiest part of what we have to do. So some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, I know a lot about. I know it's time honored and proven. Some of it is things I've just started trying to work out with my classes, and I'll be working out in the fall, because all 4 of my normally in-person classes are going to be online in the fall. So anyway, let me go ahead and hit a share screen, and I'll go through this. I have sent this PowerPoint deck to, yeah, there's no sound in this, good. I've sent this PowerPoint deck to Joe so that he can distribute it to you all. And let's see if we can get it to go. Come on, there we go. All right. So, and I'm glad we're going to get to spend a lot of time just talking to each other, because I'm sure that you have some tricks and things that you already developed that would be great to share with everybody. So we're going to have time for that. And also, I actually had time to grab the questions off of Twitter, and I have those at the end of this as well. So let's go and move ahead. So when I think about teaching student media, publications, journalism, in an online setting or in a hybrid setting, and maybe you're allowed to get together once in a blue moon to like demonstrate technology hands-on. But I'm envisioning that for the most part, you're probably going to be teaching a lot of online, or if you're going to start in person, knock on wood, you may get sent home like we did in the spring. And I sort of came up with these 5 areas that I think are really key to developing a good curriculum, and that you use already, but you use the in-person versions of them. And so you need a newsroom, which is your classroom. You need a place where like collaboration and creativity and working together and teamwork and all those kind of things can happen. You need technology, and it used to just be like layout technology, InDesign, Photoshop, Premiere, whatever you use. You have instruction. You have to tell the students what to do. You have to learn them a thing or two. You have socializing, which is a really important part of this, right? That's where the students get their ideas, hear from other students, learn what it takes to reflect their student body in a yearbook or in a literary magazine or in a school newspaper or in a broadcast, right? And then the socializing leads to sourcing, that they have access to doing interviews with people and getting sources. And unfortunately, all of those key things are just turned on their head now that we're having to teach online. So I want to go through a couple of them. Well, I'm going to go through all of them and a couple ideas in each one that I've seen work, or that I believe will work. And I'll tell you which I've seen and which I believe will work. So let's first start with the newsroom, right? Because you have a classroom. I know Joe had a famous classroom, class number at Hillsborough High, and the students, they really identify with that. That was their space. That was where they went to do their thing. It was not anybody else's in the school. And now we have this thing. And, how can we make that, into a newsroom? This is, to me, the toughest part of what we have to do. And what it means is there's a lot of different technology platforms out there that do video chats, and some schools are using some platforms which may not be the best platforms to use. Others are telling you cannot use this, you cannot use that. We'll hear more from you all on that later on. Like I know at USF, we are not allowed to use Zoom, although I have used it in violation of whatever. I don't know what they're going to do to me, string me out by the thumbs or something. But I probably have access to 4 or 5 different platforms now. I have Microsoft Teams, and I tried that out this summer. I have Blackboard Collaborative Ultra, which is found in both Blackboard and in Canvas, depending on what your platforms are. And then I have the good old Zoom. I have Skype. We have FaceTime. We have Google Hangouts. There's just a million of these platforms for you to look at. And so I think it's really important that you spend a lot of time test driving some of these platforms that they want you to use, because it took me a long time. Well, this is only a 6-week course, so I can't say it took me a long time, but you know, it took me some time to really figure out that Microsoft Teams had a lot of good things in it. It had a robust chat function. You could schedule things, you could record, but it also was hard for the students to use. It was sort of hard for me to understand it entirely. Frankly, Blackboard Collaborate Ultra was easier for my students to get, and I could schedule it within Canvas, whereas Teams was outside of Canvas. And I had to spend a lot of time communicating. You have to be there at this time, you have to be there at that time. The other aspect that I'm going to talk about quite a bit is, and you may have, I'm sure, heard this, synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous meaning what we're doing right now. Everybody's here at the same time. You meet at the same time, you know, Monday through Friday. I have you from 9:30 to 10:20 or whatever. So that's where I think the newsroom aspect comes in, is in that synchronous time. Your asynchronous time, I'll talk more about in terms of instruction, but I'm going to make the assumption that all of your school systems have given you some kind of content management system, student content learning system like Blackboard, Canvas, whatever they all are, to be on. And if they haven't, then we can discuss that too. But they're not just as easy, and especially if you've gotten used to using Zoom, like we sort of all have, just in talking to family and other people and seeing videos of it, you really do want to understand what those folks are saying, and how that platform works, because you don't always have the luxury in the middle of the class to, you know, as it's going along and running live, to sort of figure out this isn't the best platform. So I think that's the first thing you really have to look at is, you know, what's the best, and that the students will engage with the best. So I would do some dry runs. I would do it with my friends. I would do it with, you know, if you have some students, especially student leaders for your yearbook, your newspaper, whatever, I would make sure that I got them on and tried out all the neat new toys and see how they work. So if you're on Zoom, everybody's got to put something in the background. You got to put a picture back there of some kind, right? What you've got to do, I got to go back here, and I have to move that over out of the way. You want to create those safe, interactive online spaces where the students feel like they can not only like watch you and participate and get some quality advisor time, but they can also figure out how to talk to each other on it. And so I've listed a bunch of those there that I just talked about. And then I think there is an asynchronous aspect to the newsroom, and that is like Facebook groups or other social media where students can be in a space together and use that. Now, I definitely suspect that there are school systems that either prohibit or discourage you from doing anything official on Facebook. And we can talk about that a little bit more too. But when I get to the socialization part, I'm going to talk more about my pending experiment with Facebook groups that I've just started this week with my class to see if we can try to recreate that social aspect of the classroom. But I think you have to look at, you know, first and foremost, they've got to have a space that they feel like they own. And a lot of that ownership is that, you know, it's not all about you, and it's not all about you just lecturing or instructing or doing whatever. It really is an opportunity for them to have discussions, and maybe those discussions have to be outside of your earshot, just like they would have in a room, you know. Second thing is technology. So, you know, we hear that the millennials, the Gen Zs, whatever comes next, are the first generation that are native to this digital technology. That doesn't mean that they know how to use it, okay? They know how to use the parts of it that are part of their lives. But business networking, interviewing people online, finding sources via social media, they don't know anything about those things. So one of the things you need to map out here in the next, 2 weeks, month, is what technology do we need to know, do they need to use, in addition to the old standards, the Adobe stuff, you know, and how am I going to teach them about it? How am I going to make sure they understand the best practices for that? The great thing about that is you don't have to sit here and lecture them like I'm sort of giving a lecture now, and you don't have to tape yourself doing the lecture, and then, you know, you got to put captioning in because of ADA and all those other kind of things. Everything that you want to ever have your students know is on YouTube. And you have a content management system. Embed those videos in YouTube. Make sure that you have a small quiz afterward just to keep them reinforced to the main points you want them to know. And that gives them an opportunity to go through and get those technology skills. So you really cannot take for granted that these are technology kids. They know how to use their phone. They know what's going on. They can do all kinds of stuff with this. Not really. I don't see that always at the high school level, and I don't see it all the time at the college level, because they use their phones for what they want to use their phones for. And so you have to train them in the rest of the stuff, okay? Instruction. So we still have to do instruction. We still have to teach the basics of what we're trying them to get. If it's the newspaper, you got to teach them how to do inverted pyramid and first 5 W's lead and all those kind of things. I think the key thing here is, and this is absolutely a proven thing for online classes, is to flip the script for instruction. So your synchronous time, like I'm doing right now, I am not flipping the script. If I had more time and we had a platform together, I would have put together a number of things that would have made these points, and then we would have spent all our time just talking to each other and having discussions and socializing versus the actual learning modules. And LinkedIn has bought Lynda, and they have tons and tons of instructional things in terms of not only how to use the softwares, but other skills and soft skills that they need. Again, YouTube has tons of those kind of things as well. What I do, what I think about an online class is I set up a number of things that starting on Monday, they have to go in and do online up to a deadline. And in college, I give them until the next Sunday night cycle for the whole week to finish up all of the online instruction. You may give them less time so that you can actually start applying some of it later. So if you think about it in terms of the things that I want them to see, hear, watch, maybe even practice a little bit, I can put all of that stuff asynchronously on a content system. And it doesn't really take that much time to put it together, because you don't have to go out and make every single video yourself. TED Talks is amazing. I would say half of my class is me showing them a TED Talk and, you know, with bookending it with some ideas on how it relates to what they're reading in the text, which is entirely online and that they're tested on. And so then when we get to be together in a digital setting like this, we talk. And how does that apply to what's going on today? Are there examples of it? What questions did you have? What struck you? What's your big takeaway point? Those reinforcing things that you can't do asynchronously, that you can't really do, because the one thing I do find that is uniformly horrible in these content management systems like Blackboard or Canvas is their discussion boards. The students hate them. I hate them. They're not they're not user friendly. They're not visually friendly. It's not carrying on a discussion. The students are just putting something in there to get a grade. Okay. So as we flip the script, we use asynchronous for showing videos. My instruction, sometimes I do have taped lectures. I keep them short. And that's the other thing, 10, 15-minute break up. If you really have a lot of things, break them up into little components, bite-sized things. Do not tape a 50-minute lecture or idea and think that anybody's going to sit through it. It's not just students. It would be adults too, and it would be you as well. Any reading that they have to do. If you have things they're going to read and they don't like to read, then keep them short, digestible, and I give a quiz afterward that they can take 3 or 4 times to improve their grade. And I'm not really quizzing them in terms of what have you retained over a long period of time. It's part of the reading process to do that quiz. And yes, they all get hundreds on it, because then they go back and they take it again, or they go back and reread something. It's not meant to be like a midterm exam or a final exam. It's meant to be part of the reading process. And then finally, keep it short and simple. Like I said, all these little things they have to consume. And I use the modules function on Canvas as our platform. I don't know how many people have Canvas, but I will make, week 1 module, and here's the things I need you to do in week 1, and here's the deadlines when they're due. And, everything is where they can do it in short order. So here's KISS, keep it short and simple. And, videos 15 to 18 minutes, keep those things tight so that they can read them, because, most of the videos on here are, 10, 20 seconds. You're really stretching their ability to pay attention. We're doing the same thing in the classroom, the physical classroom. We just, because they're a captive audience, we can get away with it better. Then use your synchronous time. So again, you have them in class for a certain amount of time, and you have them outside of class for a certain amount of time. Maybe you don't want to meet every single day. Maybe everybody checks in, you take attendance, everybody doing okay, anybody needs some help, go do your online learning, your asynchronous learning. So I save my lifetime for talking about what the students are writing, producing, what ideas they have, what's striking them, that's going on in the world, what difficulties they're having. I get a lot of students who take my class and they're freshmen, or they're going to be freshmen for the first time coming up in the fall and coming in. So I get a lot of questions about stuff that has nothing to do with the instruction of the class, but has everything to do with their lives and what's important to them. And I think it's important for them to hear that from their peers, because that's also going to inform their storytelling. If everybody's having a problem with a certain aspect of school or online learning or life or dating or online or bullying, this is where you're going to start to hear it with that synchronous time. I also highly recommend getting a platform that will allow you to break them into groups. They need to brainstorm. They need to assist each other. They just need to hang out. They need to have time just to be high school kids and have the usual conversations that they have without you sitting there on the video listening to them. And so those breakout rooms, or breakout, whether that's in, again, Facebook groups has breakout rooms they can create. I know that Collaborate Ultra does. I think Microsoft Teams has that functionality. We don't have it yet at USF. What I would say though is, as you break them up into groups just to have different times to interact with their peers, some of whom they may know and many of whom they probably don't know, they're meeting for the first time in class, don't grade them as a group based on those things. Make their time their own in that they're using to learn and develop skills and develop soft skills, but don't make them have that group dynamic where, you know, one kid's really smart, but two kids decided that they know what they want to do for the project, and then the fourth kid is someone who never shows up. You know, that's the way every single group project is, and the students hate it. It's not really effective, but having them working in groups is effective. And so there's a big difference between their grade depending on their interactions with each other and their ability to have a safe space to interact with each other. So socializing, well, this is what it looked like before COVID, and this is what socializing looks like today for many, many students, whether they're avid gamers or not. But the point is not just video games. The point is a lot of their life now, more of their life is spent online and in smaller groups in different ways, okay? So going back to what I said about sort of the newsroom and the instructional abilities, I think one of your key things you have to solve is how am I gonna let them just be high school students? And again, that's where I think you cannot have a plan where, okay, on Monday, I'm gonna talk to them about 50 minutes about the rule of thirds, and I'm gonna demonstrate it, and I'm gonna show some things that, you know, violated, and then use video time for that, okay? Give them time. Also, give them time with you. One of the great things I've found out this summer with this class is a lot of the students just wanted to see me and hear me talking about life. I take my camera off the top of my thing, and I have two dogs running around here. I have three right now. My son's visiting with his dog, but I have two dogs running around here, and sometimes I just show them my dogs, and we talk about, you know, how are you holding up? What's going on? I think those kind of conversations, they seem like, you know, wasted instructional time, but they're not, because it gets them talking, it gets them thinking, it gets them in the mode where you start to hear the common threads that they're going through, and those common threads become stories and become trends, and they need that. You know, we underestimate how much they need that aspect of their school life, the aspect of being with their peers, of being able to speak with their peers, okay? And so I'm trying to build in more and more opportunities with the students to socialize with each other. And I asked them, you know, on my optional live chat this week, I asked them, I said, if I made a Facebook group, would you join it? Or is that not cool? Or would it not be something that would be, you know, useful to you? And every single one of them said, I want to join it. And literally the minute I put it up and sent the address out via our announcements system in Canvas, I don't think it was 30 seconds before I had 2 on there. And now today I think I have 12, class of 95. You know, some are more engaged than others, as you know, and you'll find that's the same way. But I do think that those spaces in between the learning are where they're going to get their story ideas. So I've created a private Facebook group. I don't know other social media that would be appropriate for it. I mean, obviously they could use IG, or Snapchat is sort of less serious, and TikTok I think is, you know, completely out. You want something where they can, like Google Hangouts or Facebook pages, where they can come in and have both a live and a not live experience. They can see a post, or maybe they do a live chat with somebody else in the class. And then again, as I've mentioned, that breakout rooms function on some of the video chat platforms, which is why it's really important to understand all the stuff. And usually your school system, I hope, should be pretty good about like giving you opportunities to learn about the tools that they're giving you. I'm not saying all of their presentations are good or useful, but, you know, call the IT folks and say, hey, you got 20 minutes to walk me through how this thing really works. Find the person in the school system who really knows that platform, so that you really know that platform. So this is my Facebook group. And again, you can see, got my teaching assistant is in there and I'm in there. And I generally don't post in it. I posted a welcome to the group, but I want them to use it. I want them to feel like this is their clubhouse to hang out in. This is their classroom to be in. Then finally, sourcing. And there's some good questions that were on Twitter about how do we do interviews. I think the socializing leads to the sources, but I think the sources are going to require some next level effort. Okay. So when you're in school, you know, hey, you can walk up to the main office and interview the principal, or you can talk to the AP who's in charge of this, or you can go talk to the head football coach or the head volleyball coach, or you can go out at lunchtime and just do ask any student stuff. Well, all that's gone. Okay. Yearbooks, you know, going out and getting those live candid pictures of people just hanging out at school. Unless you're being told to go back all in person, that's gone. So what I think you have to do is talk a lot to your faculty colleagues and talk to your administration. And you've got to help them understand that the ability for these student storytellers to access other classes, to access other teachers, and have those teachers ask their students, hey, is anybody having this happen? The newspaper wants to talk to people. Having administrators think about setting up a social video chat for the entire school, or by grade or by certain classes, where student journalists can listen in or take part and cultivate sources and say, hey, can I reach out to you after the chat? You're gonna have buy-in from the rest of the faculty to make that work, because there's just no way for them to randomly find these students online and where they are. You're just not going to be able to do that. And I think it's important for the students who are being interviewed as much as the students who are doing the interviewing, because, you know, and Black Lives Matters has driven this point home. You know, your students, your yearbook, your newspaper, your broadcast wants to show the full diversity, the full richness of your campus, of your school campus, now that even though it's digitalized and all over the place wherever these students are living. And you have to have administration support for some alternative ways to do that. There's just no other that I've come up with. Maybe you'll have some, and that would be great. And then finally, I think you've got to spend some time and give them some sources on using social media safely once they connect to students who are in their school and could be potentially sources for different stories, because of bullying, because of catfishing, because of all kinds of other things. And that exists for both in-person classes and digital classes, but I think it's a good time to go back and make sure that you have some early refreshers on best practices and, you know, how to stay safe on social media while they're being a student journalist or a student storyteller. So that's my 5 items that I think you've got to solve. Okay. I have some things that I'm trying. I know some work. I'm hoping that the Facebook page group thing will work. I'm going to use it in the fall, so I'll see. I've started it now, so I'll have to see how that is going. But I was really shocked when one of my optional sessions, and I had like 5 or 6 students who popped in, and I was expecting they were going to go, well, how do I do really well on active learning assignment 1 or the global media project? And I asked them, I said, so what do you want to talk about? What are you doing here? Why do you want to be in this chat? And they were like, I wanted to meet people. You know, they want to meet other students, you know, they want to get friends, they want to date people, you know, I mean, they're kids. Not that we all don't either, but most of us are old and married like me. I think those are the 5 things. If I sat down and said, how am I going to solve those 5 things, or at least take a running start at them? that you'll be better in the ballpark. And I think the most important thing is to flip that time so that students can do, instead of hearing it from you first time in class in a lecture, that they're hearing it online. And then when they meet with you, even if they haven't seen the stuff yet, you can start to talk about what's in there, but from a discussion standpoint, and not like, here's the 5 points of the 5 W's. Because, you know, some kids need to go back and see that video twice, and they will actually go back and rerun it and say, I didn't really understand that. All right, so somebody on Twitter asked, how can we get candid photos of kids if they're learning from home instead of school? Okay, yeah, good question. So here's the deal. You got to enlist all your high school students. Every student has a camera. And, you know, maybe your student leadership for the newspaper, for whatever, need to do a short video on, hey, rule of thirds, vertical versus horizontal. Like, give them a 3-minute video on how to take pictures that are candid, send them to us of what's going on in your life, and enlist them to be part of it. I mean, let's face it, a lot of the activities that you normally picture that kids are all doing together at school, they're just not gonna be there. So it's a totally different world. Then I think the other part of it is, especially for yearbooks and other aspects, I think we just got to hope and pray that there's, you know, that we can get back to school with some kind of COVID shot in time enough to fill a yearbook. And I don't know what you're doing. I mean, I'll let y'all talk about it. What are you doing for a yearbook this year? Are you just going to say, let's do something online or different? We're just not going to be able to get the shots. The other thing too is, I think, you know, your really good shooters and photographers, student photographers, are going to be able to shoot some things outside, physically distanced. Now, I don't know, again, and I'm still trying to get clarification from USF General Counsel. I don't think we can make students do this. I don't know if they volunteer and say, I don't mind doing it, I'll wear a mask, I'll stay 6 feet. But I do know that a lot of my student photographers, their high school graduation and couples photography businesses are still booming, and they're still able to do them because, thank God, we have telephoto lenses. Okay, so I think there's a 2-tiered approach for that. But when I stop yakking at you, I will entertain better answers than I have for that one. What are some of the best practices for interviews over the phone or video chat? So that's a great one. So number one, and I'll when I stop sharing this PowerPoint, I can show you on my web browser. I use a transcription service called Otter, like an otter, you know, the little cute eating the oyster on their belly. Otter.ai, like artificial intelligence. Otter.ai, free service. You drop an audio or a video file in there, it transcribes it. Is it perfect? No. Is it the closest I've found out of all of them, including like the expensive ones like Dragon and all that, Dragon Dictate? Yeah, it's better than all of that stuff. So like, go learn how to do it, which takes about 2 seconds, and then show your students how to do it, so that when they do video chats and they interview other people on Zoom or whatever, they should be recording all of those. They have to remember to tell them you're being recorded and get that on camera so that you don't violate Florida law. And then drop that on so you can transcribe it and get your quotes real quick, because otherwise it takes forever. Now, it's really nice if they have a cool camera like I have up here. I have a little Logitech HD 1080p. I'm not in the 4K world yet, but this thing's pretty nice. And it didn't cost a fortune. But not everybody's going to be able to afford that. Some of them are going to have to do, you know, with their cell phones. So I think it was 15 bucks, but I bought this little baby. It's on a little stand. You can raise it up or down, and your phone sits right there. And most students don't think about the fact that, well, if I'm going to interview somebody, usually they'll just hold this and put it on a speaker, or they'll have some earbuds. But like, oh wait, I'm holding this, how do I take notes? And so it's just really good to have it up there, because I don't think you can record FaceTime, and they may have to use FaceTime sometimes just to, you know, get an interview with people and take some notes, and as they're doing it. So I think, you know, this is one of those little toys. I did this frankly because I'm not always in front of my laptop like this, and people would call and want to have a conference, and I'd be sitting out in my living room, and I just wanted to put my phone somewhere. And after piling up books and putting it in front of it and all that, I just got tired of it. So how can I inspire my students to develop great story ideas? You know, just like always, get involved in life and get curious. And I think, you know, you've got to set the tone that this opportunity, this difference, this time we're living in is a great opportunity for totally different stories than we've ever told. We don't have to do the same old story that we did every year. Hey, how about a story about the homecoming court? You know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but, and I would say to them, your challenge this year is to really understand what this is doing to all of your friends, your peers, your fellow students. Let's explore that. What are they doing from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed? How are they learning? How are they living? How are they surviving? And so I think engaging them in the difficult idea of thinking about how tough this time can be, but also how different it is. And in some ways, it is more liberating. I'm sure there's a lot of kids who like not going to school every day. I'm loving it, you know? There's people probably the same way working at home. And then there's other people who are going quietly nuts. I mean, I've been through both of those. I go through 2 weeks of complete insanity, and then I go through, wait a second, I'm working from home and I can do all these new things and get all these new skills. What I talk to my students about who are just like, this isn't the same and I'm not going to learn anything. And I'm like, you're going to learn how to do teleconferences, which you're going to do the rest of your life, whether we have COVID or not. You know, you're going to learn how to do online learning. And my wife's a perfect example. She is a registered occupational therapist. She has to do CE credits in order to keep her license active. As I'm grading one night, she's over there watching online courses for her CE. Like, you're going to have to do this the rest of your life. This is a great opportunity to put aside the stuff that we can't do in person and learn these new skills. They're just as valuable, they're just different. So I think those ideas of what makes today different than a year ago are the way that you continue to inspire students to tell great stories. I think there are so many more great stories today than a year ago. Every student has been touched by COVID. Every student has been touched by the politics that COVID has, you know, either been fed into or is impacted by. Every student has been impacted by this horrible decision of, do we go back to school? Do we not go back to school? And so I think those are things you talk about. And then the last one, I'm worried that the things that made journalism and staff class fun will be gone. How can teachers keep a fun, chaotic newsroom feel if the class is tuning in virtually? Well, I talked a little bit about that. I think you've got to use the social media tools, and you've got to use this synchronous camera and figure out a way that that your students feel comfortable, that even though we're not just hanging out and seeing people physically, we will one day, and hopefully one day soon, but in the meantime, this is our world. So so I couldn't see any of the chat as we go down, but should I just go down the chat, or?
Really no questions in the chat, more of a chat.
Okay, good.
And a comment on your whiskey collection there. But if you do have a question, if you want to throw it in the chat, or we can try unmuting ourselves and seeing how that goes.
Yeah, Slack and GroupMe are great ideas too. I forgot to mention. I used Slack at WUSF Radio when I was on sabbatical, and I adore it. It's fantastic. It's so much better. Unfortunately, the University of South Florida bought Microsoft Teams, and so I'm gonna have to use that. So who's got a question or a better answer for something than I had?
So good question there from Britt. Do you think in restrictive counties, putting editors in charge of creating these spaces will work? Because I know when I listened to what you said, I kind of worried as a teacher about, we don't really have the latitude to put them in a room unsupervised. And there's definitely concerns about that.
Yeah. And I stayed admin for the room and said, look, your student code of conduct applies here as well. But I'm in a different situation because it's college than it is high school. Look, the limitations of how tough your administrations can be and up to the school board and your superintendent. I do think I would, tell my editors, if they're comfortable, say, look, if I'm not able to make this, here's the template, and but they have to administer it. They have to go in and take out any kind of, things that shouldn't be posted, and all of those kind of things. But I think the school systems and the school boards need to understand that if they think we're just going to sit here on a camera and like regurgitate knowledge into students' ears, that ain't going to work. They're going to have to let us at least see them. If students are going to set them up, they can't handcuff the students. And I know they're going to try. So, the old rule about asking forgiveness instead of permission, I think applies. Again, not if you're like on thin ice or something with your principal, and then you got to be a little more circumspect. Okay, so Joni asked about ideas that bridge the divide, and you have Basecamp. Yeah, actually, I've used Basecamp, so I am familiar with that. Look, I think anything that lets us push files, information they can access, videos, reminders about assignments, any kind of communication that's outside, even if we have them in class, I think is really, really helpful. And I think will allow us to use our in-class time even better than we normally use it. So I do think that is a way to bridge that. So you have mostly in-person and a few e-learning. Yeah, I think that's really hard too, because like students, I know at USF, students can opt out. Even if I had an in-person class, which is one of the reasons I didn't do one, they still have to be part of everything. You have to tape the classes and they have to be available, or you have to live stream them, or, whatever. So I think, again, that's why that asynchronous opportunity for them to have group chats, meet up in social media, group me's, whatever, then, I think that's even more important when you've got some here and some not. Otherwise, the nots are just like, they're not part of anything, It's that's really, really tough.
Katie from Lake Brantley asked, does anyone have a good system for public submission of candid photos? And I'll offer one up. I know multiple yearbook companies have programs that they provide that you can have them go online and submit to. And what we've had success with, both at FSPA and in my publications, is using Dropbox file requests. It just creates a URL, and you could probably park that onto a website and say, please send your photos here. And then it's just a matter of recruiting and convincing people to actually do it. But the file upload portion works pretty well. I know Plant High School near us uses that same process for their yearbook ads as well. And Angela, I'm pretty sure Walsworth. Okay, actually, I don't remember, so I won't answer.
Okay.
I can't remember if they have it or not.
Hey, Devin had a question some time ago about, the problem of, or a comment about, recording Zoom meetings due to FERPA. And, that's the lack of security with Zoom, both people popping in with porno and whatever else. And the recordings themselves, I think, are the reason why we're prohibited from using it. But I think students can use it to conduct interviews, because that's not you know, that's not official instruction, and that's their option. They can use any platform they really want. I've been back and forth about recording my sessions because initially I thought, well, if a student's absent, they could just rewatch this and do it. And the optional sessions, I originally told students, even if you can't make the session, since they're totally optional, and I don't say anything in these optional sessions that is going to be on a test ever. So it's just for us to talk. So it's not like I'm giving some special instruction, but, you know, I taped them for a while and no one ever watched them and no one ever accessed them. And, you know, it's different though if you have a synchronous class that's all online and the students have to check in for attendance. And if they're not there, do you need to make that available to them? And so that's why I don't think Zoom is the best platform for teaching, because a lot of these other platforms do everything that Zoom does too and have a greater level of security. So that's my take on Zoom. I use Zoom for my friends and happy hour and anything. Oh, so is anyone at a school which will have families decide whether the student go to school or not? Are you guys all getting like uniform instruction on everyone will go, or is hybrid, or is anybody? I know in Hillsborough they asked the parents, right? They asked the parents, what would you like to do? But that's not like individual choice.
I think most school districts have offered up the same basic plate of choices. You can do face-to-face. You can do our version is a connect, where you're basically going to class at that time, but sitting in front of your computer, or you are also, you could just go straight virtual. You know, the option has been offered before. You know, where some counties differ, like mine, for instance, you can do a hybrid where you're partial face-to-face and partial in front of your computer at home, and that's going to be a logistical nightmare. So I think, you know, but I think that's the basic choice. Now, the one somebody was posting about every 3 weeks you can change your mind and go back and forth. That's not our county, and that's damn scary.
Well, I know one of the things that we're doing at the college level is because, and especially if you have broadcast classes and you're teaching equipment and you're teaching like how to white balance and do different things, there are some things you really need hands-on. And so some of our teachers are doing a hybrid thing where maybe 4 or 5 times a semester, you're actually going to come in and have instruction, but they're coming in much smaller groups because we can only have 25% of any classroom size of students in, and that's usually 4 students and 1 instructor. So they're saving that face-to-face time for things that you really have to do. The people who are really struggling are our production folks and our news show, because that was a hands-on switcher, the whole bit. And I think, you know, what they've come to is we used to have a newsroom full of anchors and, you know, 2 people on graphics and an audio engineer and a director and a producer, you know, and all those things. And so I think what we've gone to is they're going to be able to actually use our production studio, which is at WUSF, the old TV side. But there's only going to be like 3 or 4 students, and they're going to be the ones who do it the whole time. You used to rotate through it and all that. So yeah, the production classes, I don't, you know, that's going to be the toughest thing to sort of recreate, because those were, you know, packed into a small room and there's like 13 people in there. So I don't know if Omar has an answer for that either, but those are the toughest ones I think that I've sort of found that we haven't really still resolved.
All right, we've got some chat going about some yearbook photo specific things. Anybody have any final questions for Mr. Garcia?
Was this helpful at all? Does it help you sort of rethink the way you want to attack this puzzle? I hope so.
I think the idea, the 5 points you put, really, it helps me, I know, get a kind of wrap my mind around how this is happening and what's, you know, because it's overwhelming, to be honest. How are you going to do everything? Everything's different. But when you look at those 5 points, that's, you know, the old adage about how you're going to eat the elephant. So it's, I think it's a way to kind of start that.
It is.
That buffet.
And it is a bite at a time. And like, you know, my USF starts at August 24th. So I have a little more time than many of you do. And you don't have to have all the answers and have it all ready. And even if you did, you wouldn't want to introduce it all to the students at the same time. And so the tough part is it can be done, but it really, you are reinventing the pedagogy of what you're doing and rethinking the things that need to be learned. And there are going to be things that you traditionally learned them, you traditionally taught them, that I think you might have to let go in favor of the whole digital world of networking and interviewing, doing things by this. And you know, this is a medium where sound and motion and video now becomes so much better and easier to do than pictures and words. And so maybe that's, you know, maybe that's the thing that forces your newspaper a little more online and thinks about sound bites and thinks about all these other things that they're engaging with, while not giving up the fact that they still need to learn how to write a sentence that uses a comma properly, right? I would love to get a student who could do that. Well, thank you, everyone. Like I said, I sent that deck to Joe. He can send that out. My email is wgarcia@usf.edu, wgarcia@usf.edu. I'm sort of learning, you know, these challenges as we go along, the same as you are. So if you want to drop me an email with a question or an idea, and if there are some other things that can help, like Otter AI that I mentioned, and I just need to go through and make a list of those. Once I do that, I'll send it to Joe. He'll send it to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Wayne. We really appreciate it. I just want to remind our members that next Thursday Wayne will have Wayne again. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Wayne. You're off. Next week we'll be doing some roundtables, which will take place 6 o'clock for advisors and 7 p.m. for students. We'll have more information on our website and on our social channels about all of that, and we hope to see you there. So good luck. I know some of you going back to work tomorrow.